The Poisoning Angel, a detailed story of Hélène Jagado. 1. A hard childhood in misty Brittany. The story begins in the 1800s in Brittany, a wild and misty region of France. It was a place full of old legends and strong beliefs. A young girl named Hélène Jagado grew up here. Her childhood was very difficult. She was poor and saw a lot of suffering. In Brittany, people strongly believed in the Ankou, a legendary figure of death who drove a cart to collect the souls of the dead. When Hélène was a child, her mother died, which affected her deeply. She became obsessed with the idea of death. In her mind, she wasn't just a girl. She believed she was an apprentice or helper to the Ankou. She thought it was her destiny, her job. 2. The trusted servant with a secret weapon. As Hélène grew into a young woman, she started working as a domestic servant, mainly as a cook, in various homes. She was very good at her job. She was quiet, hard-working, and always seemed very religious and respectful. Because of her calm appearance and diligent work, people easily trusted her. She moved from one employer to another, often staying in rectories, priests' houses, convents, and wealthy family homes. However, Hélène carried a terrible secret: a small bag of white powder. This powder was arsenic, a very common and easily available rat poison at the time. She began to use this poison in the food she prepared. She would carefully stir it into soups, mix it into cakes, or even put it in the wine. Since she was the person who cooked all the meals, no one ever suspected that the food itself was the cause of the sudden illnesses. 3. A trail of sickness and death. For nearly 2 decades, Hélène moved from village to village, leaving a horrifying trail of sickness and death behind her. In every household where she worked, people mysteriously fell ill with similar symptoms: severe stomach pains, vomiting, and diarrhea. Soon after, they would die. She worked for priests, other servants, entire families, and even children. What was most chilling about Hélène was her behavior after she had poisoned someone. While her victims lay suffering in bed, she would often sit by their side, appearing to comfort them. She would pray loudly for their recovery, making sure everyone saw her devotion. And after they died, she would be the most heartbroken mourner at the funeral, crying and showing deep sadness. This made people feel pity for her, thinking she was just an unlucky servant who always found herself in homes struck by tragic illnesses. 4. Why no one suspected her for so long. Hélène managed to kill so many people for so long because of 2 main reasons related to the time period. First, medical knowledge was not advanced. The symptoms of arsenic poisoning, like stomach cramps, vomiting, and diarrhea, were often mistaken for common diseases of the 19th century, such as cholera or gastric fever, which were very deadly and widespread. Doctors simply didn't recognize the true cause. Second, there was a lot of superstition in rural Brittany. When deaths repeatedly occurred around Hélène, people didn't think of foul play. Instead, they blamed bad luck, a curse, or God's will. Hélène herself believed she was a flower of thunder, fleur de tonnerre, an instrument of fate, not a criminal. She didn't kill for money or anger. She killed because she felt an internal drive to cleanse or clear the table of life and catch. 5. The mistake in Rennes. Eventually, Hélène's journey led her to the city of Rennes in 1851. She found a job as a cook for a prominent law professor named Monsieur Bidard. However, after nearly 20 years of getting away with her crimes, Hélène became careless and arrogant. In a very short time, several people in the house, including other servants, became violently ill and died. Because so many deaths happened in one place so quickly, people began to whisper. Suspicion finally turned toward the quiet cook who was always present when tragedy struck. The law professor and local doctors began to realize that this was not a natural disease. For the first time, the Flower of Thunder faced the reality of human justice. 6. The trial and the guillotine. The police arrested Hélène in July 1851. When they began to investigate her past, They were horrified to find a trail of dead bodies in every town she had lived in. During her trial, the courtroom was packed with people who wanted to see the woman known as the Poisoning Angel. Helene remained strangely calm throughout the trial. She did not cry or beg for mercy. To the public, she looked like a simple, pious woman, but the evidence proved she was a monster who had likely killed between 40 and 60 people. On February 26, 1852, Helene Gigardo was led to the guillotine in a public square in Rennes. Even at the moment of her death, she seemed disconnected from reality, still believing in her dark spiritual mission.